everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and we finally get to talk about an FSU win. Now, it only took them to face one of the worst teams in America, pretty much, in the Charleston Southern Buccaneers, but FSU finally doubles their win total to 2. That's right, the Seminoles are now on a one-game winning streak. Actually, it's not really a streak, but still. 2 wins, 2-9, 41-7. After an incredible 0-0 fourth quarter, FSU finally turned it on in the second quarter and subsequently scored in double digits with 17 in the second, 14 in the third, and 10 in the fourth. And there was a lot of interesting things that happened. I'm not really going to... I want to focus on the young guys because there's a lot of positives that you could take away from that. However, again, we have to preface this by saying that Charleston Southern is not a good football team at all. But we can talk about the interesting things that happened in the sense of Luke Kromenhoek got the start. And he pretty much played the entire game outside the last drive. Mike Norvell said that he wanted Luke to play about 3 to 4 drives before he switched in Brock, and then it never happened. So, 13 of 20, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. Throw in 8 rushes for 31 yards. And Luke had himself a pretty good day. He definitely got more comfortable as the game wore on. You saw him take some more shots downfield. And lo and behold, when your wide receivers catch the ball, plenty of things can happen. A lot of people were involved in the game, as you expected, because it was, again, one of those cupcake games. Lawrence Toafili was featured somewhat early. He had 6 carries for 33 yards. Keziah Holmes, 3 carries, 38 yards, 12.7 yards per carry average and 2 touchdowns. That's an individual that I really wished was rewarded for coming back, I guess. Again, I think this running back room would have been fine with Toafili and Keziah Holmes as the 2 featured backs. And then you can complement them with Cam Davis and whatnot. I didn't think that Roy Dale Williams was a necessary take. I understood the logic behind it, but again, I just wish Keziah Holmes had a better opportunity this season because I really thought he deserved it. Sam Singleton, 4 for 21. Cam Davis himself came back from injury, 9 for 39. Brock Glenn, 2 for 10. He also went 3 of 3 for 31 yards. Trevor Jackson made his cameo appearance. I'm sure a lot of people were excited about that. 1 carry for 2 yards. And Lawayne McCoy, 1 carry for 1 yard. I thought, was that Trevor Jackson or Malik Benson? I wonder if they took that in the score. Because I believe that was Malik Benson who ran for that play in the end zone. Anyways. Ja'Kai Douglas had a 71-yard catch, 3 for 82, a touchdown. Makai Denzi, 1 for 38. Oh, man, that kid's... Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Landon Thomas, freshman tight end, 2 for 36. Hakeem Williams had probably the best catch of the year for an FSU wide receiver that was tipped by a linebacker or one of the secondary players, and he made a one-handed catch. Kind of showed glimpses of what we expected from him this year. 2 for 35 with a touchdown. BJ Gibson, another young kid, 2 for 14. Darian Williamson made a cameo appearance. Amari Williams, 2 catches for 11 yards and a touchdown. Another true freshman tight end. Lawayne McCoy, another true freshman, 1 for 10. Malik Benson, 1 for 4. And Sam Singleton, 1 for -3. And it was just really good seeing the young guys play. And seeing how they produced, again, like not everything was perfect, however, but you're talking about Landon Thomas, Amari Williams, both the guys that you ideally will want to feature a lot next year at the tight end position, had a combined 4 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. Makai Denzi, who I'm really high on. Again, this kid is going to be something interesting in the sense of, apologies for that. He's recruited as a running back, 6'1", 185 pounds. He's also a freshman. Track star speed, and it might behoove this coaching staff to put him as a slot wide receiver, but with the alleged hire at offensive coordinator, I think there's a lot of potential with Makai Denzi. And when I was watching this game, that's kind of the way I viewed it in terms of that perspective, is clearly this season has long been lost. And repeatedly throughout the season, I've told you guys that I am looking in these games to find the young players and how they respond. And again, it was really refreshing to see how much plays they were making. Cam Davis running hard. Sam Singleton making some good cuts. He wasn't just relegated to special teams. Again, Makai Denzi, BJ Gibson, Lloyd McCoy. Even your leading tackle was Jabril Rawls. And you just got to hope that there's enough talent that will want to stay that you can actually build around. Ashlyn Barker had an interception. And it's just one of those things where who are you going to keep? Who are you going to give that NIL money to? And who are you going to kind of usher out? There's rumors that, this team wants to keep Darrell Jackson Jr., Joshua Farmer, and Azaria Thomas for next year and see if they can send out feelers for that in terms of if there's a possibility for them to stay. But who's going to be the leaders next year? That's what I want to know. The defense against a triple option team played pretty solid. Sean Murphy, transfer out of Alabama, who's kind of dealt with injuries a lot of the year, kind of showed you what maybe possibly it could be in the future. Had a tackle and a half for loss, recovered the fumble. Patrick Payton decided to show up, 2 tackles for losses. Azaria Thomas, half a tackle for loss. Aaron Hester, young kid, pass deflection and a tackle for loss. Charles Lester had a pass deflection. Byron Turner had a tackle for loss. 6 tackles for losses, 3 pass deflections. Overall, pretty solid game. And again, Sean Murphy, considered a sophomore, redshirt sophomore. So what can you expect out of him next year? Hopefully, you could have a nice core linebacking group of Justin Cryer, Sean Murphy, Blake Nicholson, Omar Graham Jr. Again, that doesn't really jump off the page for you. But with the way Justin Cryer was playing earlier, and if one of those guys step up, the younger guys, and Blake Nicholson, or even Omar Graham, maybe something could be had there. You also have to wonder where the cornerback group goes with the new defensive coordinator. And let's jump back to the offense. And I want to talk about what I believe is going to be from all the sources that I've accumulated. Um, it's clear that they're leaning towards Brennan Marion, the UNLV offensive coordinator slash QB coach, as the new offensive coordinator for this team, barring any surprises of him taking a head coaching job. I know Tulane just opened up. Well, that might be interesting for him to look into. But he is the author of the Go-Go Offense, and he's not too far away from how Norvell likes to run an offense. Go-Go is a little different because of how many running backs they use and the concepts. But the reason why I think this could work is, again, Norvell is of the mindset that you run to set up the pass. That's where the explosive plays come from. The go-go offense uses two running backs, and the quarterback decides which, option to go for, as well as maybe sees a wide open tight end and whatnot. I'm just picturing like the thunder and lightning potential of Cam Davis and Mekhi Denzi with this offense, and Luke Kromenhoek and his dual threat ability, and using the combination of, if he stays on the offensive side, which I believe he will, Amari Williams and Landon Thomas as double tight ends, and maybe having Hakeem Williams on the outside and some burners, on the slot positions. It makes you hope. And I'm not saying it's going to be this incredible offense. There's going to be growing pains, but the thing that I find reassuring about it is the fact that it is a simplistic blocking offense for the offensive line. There's no counters and pulling guards and doing this assignment, doing that assignment. It's just straight up blocking. And that's what you're going to need with this offensive line next year. It gives you hope because you can spread your NIL resources elsewhere. I am of the mindset that Luke is coming back next year. I'm not sure if Brock's going to come back. I think Brock got dealt a bad hand where he was a true freshman and had to deal with facing the number 15 team in the country in Louisville in the ACC championship game. Then he had to face Georgia in the Orange Bowl with everybody opting out. And then he comes back and he faced Clemson this year. So 3 straight starts with top 15 opponents. And this was the one cupcake game you had, and you figured you might want to try and build this confidence up and give him a shot for next year sort of thing. And Luke played 95% of the game. That's a telltale sign of this coaching staff. More specifically, Mike Norvell. I thought Brock could have been a solid quarterback. However, you can see the tools that Luke brings to the game that separates him from Brock. He's more confident in his arm in a sense of taking the deep ball shot. He can move better. And he kind of gets out of the pocket a little better. Not much. But again, Luke's a true freshman. This will be Brock's third year next year in the system. And again, I'm not sure if he's going to stay. So you keep Luke, and you have to spend your resources on the offensive line and in all likelihood the defensive line, because you can't recruit / develop those trenches, which is what you need in today's game, regardless of what system you run. They're going to lose Darius Washington, Maurice Smith. I don't know if Richie Leonard's going to come back from injury because he was very close with Atkins. I think Barrett Byers is done. There's a few people who are done. So do you run into next year with Lucas Simmons as your starting tackle? Because he can't seem to keep the weight correct during this season. He hasn't really shown the ability to get on the field, even though they're very high on him. is Early going to be here next year? It's just, again, what are you coming into the season with? Is Hakeem coming back? Is he going to be willing to come back, or is he going to take his talents elsewhere? I believe you should keep both tight ends, the young ones, and maybe get another wide receiver. But if you keep Hakeem, again, I'm not saying that these guys are the type of talent that next year will get you back to 8 wins, 9 wins. However, you do have to start showing high school recruits that you can bring in high school talent and develop them. Which is why, again, invest in the trenches. Regardless, Norvell has to win at least 6 games next year. If you're of the realistic mindset, this team isn't going to jump back into contention all of a sudden. You got to start building again. And that's not the thing you want to say going into year 6 after you went 10-3 and 13-1. That's not what you expected. But that's the reality. You have Luke at QB. You have Cam Davis, Sam Singleton, Mekhi Denzi at running back. You have Hakeem Williams. Maybe under a new wide receiver coach you could develop. And then you've got all the young kids. You got B.J. Gibson, LaWayne McCoy, who played in today's game. I'm really high on those 2 tight ends. I think they could be serious matchup problems. And there's a lot of talent in that secondary with who decides to stay. You've got Quindarius Jones. You've got Charles Lester III, who hasn't even seen the field, and he was one of your more talented cornerback prospects last year. Or not last year, but last recruiting class. You have Jabril Rawls. Does Azareye'h Thomas come back? I don't think he should. I think he should go pro, but if he comes back, even better. You got KJ Kirkland, where they're high on the back end. Ashlyn Barker. I think Conrad Hussey's gone. Due to him falling down the depth chart. I think he's transferring out. Who comes back from the defensive tackle side? The team is really high. The coaching staff is really high. KJ Sampson, who's a freshman or redshirt freshman, I believe. But who are you going to have on the defensive end side? Patrick Payton's gone. Is Marvin Jones Jr. coming back? I'm not sure. Sinoe Loya, probably butchered that last name. He's not coming back. He exhausted eligibility. Byron Turner. There needs to be a lot more on the trenches, folks. And that's a concern going into the offseason. This is a great game because you finally scored over 21 points. You finally had over 300 yards of total offense. Yes, it finally happened since Jordan Travis got injured. They had not had over 300 yards of total offense. And here they are in game number 11 in the 2024 season. They finished with 415 yards of total offense. 240 passing, 175 rushing. You want to know the best part too? 2 turnovers. They had 3 all year coming into this game. You had a pick and a fumble. Again, you just wanted to watch this game to see how the young kids did. There's not a lot to take away from this game. Charleston Southern is that bad. But at the very least, You can see players who want to be here, who want to represent the Spear, who want to bring this program back. You saw wide receivers catch the ball, try and make some plays in the open field. Something you haven't seen all year. With that being said, you got Florida next. And we'll talk about Florida and a few other games in our weekly recap of the college football world. There's a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff went down. A lot of shakeup. So this week's going to be pretty busy for me. We're going to get the Florida State podcast that we just recorded here out as fast as possible. We're going to do a UM review against their Wake Forest opponents. We're going to review the college football playoff weekend and take into account the AP poll of the ramifications of the results. And then we're probably going to do a podcast on the college football playoff ranking system on Tuesday. So as soon as that gets taken out, I'm going to offer my thoughts on that because, again, once we review the weekly results, it's going to be a cluster bleed, folks. And we'll see going into the last weekend of college football of regular season, not counting the championship games, what's going to happen after that. With that being said, folks, thanks for sticking around for this episode. Thanks for listening. You know the drill. You know where to find us. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Like, subscribe, follow, turn those notifications on. Get this beautiful voice in those ears or in those Bluetooth headsets, the car. Wherever you may consume us, I thank you. Look out for those episodes coming up, and we'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.